But why not train the blacks how to act rather than
That's it. What you're saying right now is illegal.
rather
That's
than
illegal.
putting the responsibility on the owner of the company?
No, that's what you just said is illegal.
Why is
You
that?
cannot train the blacks.
Why not?
That's not, you have, if you are offering training, you have to train everyone. You can't make assignments by race like that. There are laws that protect against isolating groups for purposes like that. You can't do, that's like, you can't just hire people. You can't hire people because of their race, because of their gender.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the company training them. Why don't your job, why don't you switch your role rather than putting that responsibility on the companies? Why not train the blacks how to work, how to act at work?
That is an absurd notion.
Oh, why it's hard to train them?
No, that is like, because that's not that is, so we offer leadership and management training for people regardless of race. I don't like, if we go into a company and we have problems with leadership and management and we've got folks who need things that need to be addressed, we address them, but that is never, ever done along racial lines, along gender lines, along lines of sexual orientation. What you're talking about is a very illegal practice.
Amazing. You are the CEO of TMI. What is TMI?
TMI Consulting. It is a consulting firm.
Oh, that's what you do. You go around and help the bosses, this owner, with these people, how to treat these people.
I got you. Yes, I make sure that employees are being treated with respect, and that institutions are mined of their institutional bias and their discriminatory practices.
Do you work with private businesses too, or just governmental businesses?
I work across all industries and all sectors all over the world. The only place I haven't worked is Antarctica. I can't find no racist penguins, but I'm sure you might know some.
Why would a private business allow a person like you to come in and tell them what to do and how to treat their employees? I would never let that happen.
Because what I do makes organizations millions and millions of dollars. When you optimize your organization for equitable behavior and equitable practices, you become more profitable, you become more impactful, you become more relevant, and you become more of an ingrained part of the community that people want and need. You become a destination employer where everyone actually wants to work, and you don't have people quitting and getting fired because they're terrible. Because an organization is an organism. It is something that is alive. And if you treat it with respect and you create a welcoming space, then that organism is healthy. And when it's healthy, anything is possible.
You also become a weak company because now the boss, the owner, the manager, the supervisor has to tiptoe around the homosexuals, around the blacks, around the women. Instead of being tough and being themselves, now they have to tiptoe around employees. And so the inmates end up running an insane asylum.
So you're tiptoeing. So you just mentioned several protected categories. So if the owners were interested in running roughshod over protected categories, then they need to go to jail.
Amazing. So you say that women are strong. If women are strong, why do they need laws, and why do they need someone to protect them? Men don't need that. Only the weak aspect of society need that. The women, the homosexuals, the lesbians, and the blacks. Only the weak people need to be protected like a species, right? If they were strong, why do they need to be protected? Nobody needs to protect me.
You actually do. We have Department of Labor laws to protect you. We have employment laws. There are far more Department of Labor laws, human resource laws. There are all kinds of laws that protect you. There are far fewer laws that protect the people who historically have been treated badly by those in power. There's so much more. And there's like, I don't know if you own your business or not, but there's more laws to protect your company, to protect your money, to protect your interests, to protect your home, to protect your car. We've got more in place to protect the strong than we ever had to protect.
Well, that's because you own the company. Strong people own own company, weak people destroy them. But if women are strong, why do they need someone to protect them? A law or something like that?
Everyone needs to be protected because everyone is human. Human beings are fragile. Human beings are fallible. Human beings they are all capable of being in a place where they need support. You tomorrow morning, you could wake up paralyzed from the waist down and instantly be part of a class that if we didn't have protections for people with disabilities, that your life would be even harder than it would be if you woke up disabled. And that would be through no fault of your own, but what you would consider a weakness. I consider a disability a strength because what it takes to live in a society that doesn't privilege the disabled is extraordinary power. But you're saying that you believe that people who are marginalized by society are weak. I don't agree with you.
But all I ever hear complaining about weakness are women and now lesbians and homosexuals. If women are strong, why are they always complaining? I'm trying to get an because you don't hear men. You don't hear men complaining, but you always hear women complaining. But yet they're supposed to be strong. I don't get
the president of the United States been complaining for 4 years. Those people that stormed the Capitol because they were complaining about what was going on in their country. Everybody complains when they are unhappy. That's not owned by any one group of people.
But I don't hear the president complaining. The president is dealing with evil. But what I want to know, you have not answered for me yet.
Sure.
Women are always complaining, but yet they say they're strong. You don't hear that from men.
I don't hear women complaining any more than men.
No, I hear it all the time. They want a law for this. He's abusive. He did this and he did that. And we need a law.
You said he's abusive, and you believe that a woman should sit quietly while she's being abused by any other person, man or woman or otherwise?
No,
that complaint you would like to register as an illegitimate complaint because someone is being abused?
I believe that women should admit how women are more abusive than men are 10 times.
No, statistically speaking, absolutely not.
Statistics lie.
All you have to do is go look at the rolls.
But they lie on those. That's because women are complaining about men, so they report it, right? So what I'm encouraging men to do now is when women are abusive, call the cops immediately, have them arrested, and throw away the key. And then
anyone who is committing abuse to another human being should be held accountable. I completely agree with you on that front. And everything
if the men were to call the cops, the jails would be overflowing with women.
But I thought that you said that the men are inherently stronger and that the women are so incredibly weak. So how are all of these terribly weak women overpowering these super strong men?
Because the men are afraid of the law. They're afraid to go to jail. And so they allow these women to do it.
Where's this fear coming from?
So I'm telling them to reverse the law. And so when the woman is like that, call the cop, put them in jail.
You can't have it both ways, boo-boo.
Yes, you
can't have it both ways. You can't say that they are so incredibly strong and infallible, and then that they're too scared to call the police because someone's hurting them. If somebody is hurting the man,
they're not afraid. They feel sorry for the woman. They'll say, "Oh, I hate to put her in jail. Oh, the kids need the mother, right?" I'm saying, put that woman in prison.
That is interesting because that does not track with your depiction of the stronger gender.
So should differences between people be celebrated simply because they're different?
People should be celebrated because they're people. Our species is incredible, and its diversity is precisely why it's incredible. The differences between people are extraordinary. When you travel around the world and you see all of the different food, all of the different architecture, the accomplishments, the things that the human species has done, and the various ways that we express ourselves are sacred. If you profess to be a Christian, then you understand that it is our differences that over time have made us so incredibly extraordinary. And those are things that that have been celebrated by Christ, that are celebrated by God, because God created those differences and they're gorgeous. Absolutely, we should celebrate people because we are people, because we are all God's glorious and beautiful children in our perfection, in our imperfection, in our failures, in our strengths. That is part of the human condition, and it's sacred and it's gorgeous.
But all people are not children of God. Only those who have returned to the fathers are children of God. The rest of them are children of Satan. And so in the good old days, when boys were boys and men were men, weakness was not celebrated. But the Christian will show the weak how to overcome weakness by returning to the Father, because weakness is not good for anyone.
Weakness is part of the human condition.
But not from God. It's from Satan. Only it's not good to be weak.
Why did Christ allow himself to be captured, beaten, crucified?
Because
that was a show of weakness. And that was a show of weakness. That was a show of weakness for the rest of us to know that no matter what happens in our lives, that we can endure, and even to the point of death, that in Christ we will be rejoined with God. That was weakness, to allow yourself to be captured, to allow someone to put a crown of thorns on your head and beat it into your skull, to allow yourself to be flogged and cut and spat upon, disrobed, legs broken, with a sword slammed into your side, and then crucified and died. That is not like the strong man of the species. Like if strength was paramount and that defined humanity, then our Lord and Savior would never have submitted to the abuse of man.
Christ had a primary purpose, and his purpose was to come and defeat Satan. And because at that time, Satan had control of the people, and the people were weak and subject to evil. And so Christ came to defeat Satan, and he did that. So he had to go through that. He had a purpose, and his purpose was to defeat Satan so that we can be made strong.
Is Christ God?
Hold on 1 minute. That's what his purpose was.
Understood.
So God sent his son in order to make a way so those so they can overcome weakness by returning to the Father.
Beautiful. Is Christ God?
No, he's the Son of God.
So Christ is the Son of God. Is Christ powerful at all? Or is Christ the weak Son of God?
He is the powerful Son of God because the Father works in him.
So he's the powerful Son of God. The Father works in him. And the Father God could have chosen any way imaginable to defeat Satan. If power and strength and eliminating any vestige of human weakness were the ideal outcome and goal, if God was trying to teach us a lesson that you must be strong and only strong and never cry, he cried tears of blood in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? If we were never supposed to show any weakness, then God could have sent his powerful son, worked through his powerful son, and defeated Satan and all of the demons with a display of strength unbeknownst to man. That could have happened. But you know what God chose? God chose to defeat Satan through the weakness of man. And that is a very different lesson. God could have showed us that strength was paramount and that was the only acceptable way through life.
I don't quite know.
That's not what God wanted to do.
No, you got it all wrong. I know it may sound good when you say that, but it's all wrong. Christ was strong because the Father in him was strong. So when you overcome Satan, the children of the lie overcome the devil, Satan, right? And return to the Father. They got to overcome the mother because the mother is weak. And all those who are born through the mother are dying, but those who return to the Father are living. And so the weak become strong by returning to the Father. So and that's what the purpose of Christ was.
Sure. So there's something. So you're saying then that weakness was purposeful. I have met, known, loved, and worked with, at this point, probably millions of people and impacted millions of people around the world. And what I know to be a fact of the human condition is that it is not in our moments of strength and in our moments of ease when things are comfortable and wonderful and shiny and full of rainbows. That is not when we learn and grow. And people often do not find themselves leaning on and turning to God in their moments of strength, in their moments of power. It is in the moments of human weakness. It's when people are confronted with the satanic energy. It's when people are confronted with the darkness and the reality sometimes of their worst choices that God speaks to them and says, "Hey, boo-boo, do you need me now?" It is through the moments of people's worst weakness and their worst choices that they turn to God.
But you don't truly believe that, though, because if you believe that, you wouldn't go to a business and try to tell the owner of a business to tiptoe around its employees.
Hey,
you
honey,
would tell the employees, would tell the employees that they need to be right, do right,
you're
or they're going to get fired.
You're telling me.
If you truly believe, because you're right. You're right about in our weakness is when God make us strong and we know how to endure. But if you truly believe that, you would tell the blacks and the homosexuals and the women that y'all got to act right, do the right thing on the job, be on time, stop complaining, do your work. You wouldn't tell the boss to tiptoe around the weak.
I tell everybody who I encounter, including you, that you need to act right all the time.
Do you say that to the blacks too?
You're telling me, I don't discriminate the way that you do, clearly.
What do you mean?
People, listen, no. You're telling me how I should show up in a workplace.
Yeah.
I've been in business for 17 years, and I have never knocked on a business's door and solicited their business. People come to me and they ask me for my help.
Well, that's because the white people are afraid of the blacks now. They're afraid because they're trying to figure out, Lord, I gotta hire these blacks.
I've been doing this for 25 years.
They're like, Lord, I gotta hire these blacks, and I don't know how to deal with them. So I'm gonna bring in somebody.
When did white people get scared of black people?
For the last 70 years, they're afraid of being called racist. They're afraid of being sued. They're not afraid of the black person per se, but they're afraid of being sued or called racist. But I want to ask you,
why would they be afraid of being sued if they weren't doing anything wrong?
But they're not. The black person just have to say it, and then the courts or whatever assume that the white.
And the courts are biased in favor of black people? What
Yes.
state do you live in?
Yes, they are.
What state do you live in? California?
Yes.
Yeah, the courts, the courts, statistically and objectively speaking, are not biased in favor of black people. If white people are
That's
scared
not
of it,
true.
that is
Believe me,
absolutely
I
true.
heard of tons of. I know businessmen.
I told you earlier. It's about looking at the data.
I told you earlier that a lot of businesses don't want to hire blacks because in California, New York, and other states, they're afraid of being sued.
Because they're racist.
So let me ask, before we talk about your brand new book, you also wrote a book called Overcoming Bias. Mm-hmm. And is it ever okay to be biased?
Everyone is always biased. That's part of the human condition.
Is it okay to be that way?
It just depends on what it is. I prefer chocolate ice cream over vanilla ice cream, and it doesn't matter. But if I say I prefer chocolate people over vanilla people, and I'm running a company and I'm only hiring vanilla people, then yes, that's a problem.
So is it okay to be biased?
It's human to be biased.
And so it's normal?
It's normal, yes.
Right. Is it okay to discriminate?
No, you should. I mean, not against people. No, you shouldn't discriminate against people.
Do you ever particularly what?
It is illegal to discriminate against people in protected categories.
Do you ever discriminate?
Everyone discriminates.
How about you?
Yes, of course.
And so if it's not good to do that, why do you do it?
I don't do it on purpose, and I check myself.
You discriminate accidentally?
Huh?
You discriminate accidentally?
That's what unconscious bias is.
But it's a God-given right to discriminate. It's not something you made of yourself.
No, it's not. But I try. I work every day to overcome it because these are not things. I can't wave a magic wand. And I tell the disclaimer for that book is, you read this book, you're not going to be free of all your bias. If you are a responsible human being with a good and loving heart, whether that's a Christian heart, a Muslim heart, a Jewish heart, or an atheist heart, if you have a good and loving heart and you care about the well-being of human beings, then you will take the work upon yourself to try to purge your biases. And every time you purge one, a new one gonna pop up behind it because it's called being human. But you'll work to purge your biases and you will work to hold yourself accountable. And when you catch yourself discriminating, you'll back up, you'll acknowledge it, and you'll apologize to the person in front of you who you may have caused harm. That's
Amazing.
how I roll.
Do you love white people?
I love all people.
How about white people?
All people.
Do you love white people?
White people, black people, Asian people, Jewish people, Christians, atheists, agnostics, Gnostics, all of the people. I love them all.
Do you love white people?
Yes, all people.
Do you love white people?
I love all people.
But
yes.
I'm not asking about all people, just white.
Sure. But I don't love white people exclusive of other people.
Joe Biden said he want to put blacks, Native Americans, I think that's the Indians, Latinos, and women first. Is that bias against white men to do that?
No, what he is doing is he is trying to create balance and equity.
Is that bias against white men to do that?
No, white men have the automatic advantage, the automatic unearned advantage.
Is that inclusive of white men?
White men, let's go through the government. Let's go through the entire United States government across all 50 states and count the number of white people and white men, and then tell me whether or not that's exclusive of white men.
So you
Who
think
predominates the roles in the United States government, in the federal government and all 50 states? White people are not being discriminated against in government jobs.
So you think that it's okay to skip over the white men and put all these other folks in front of them?
I think that white men have ample opportunity to be successful in every aspect of American life and work.
I mean, you're right in that white people, especially white men, are more aggressive. They tend to go after what they want. They build. They don't blame others for their downfall, for their weakness. They tend to conquer their weakness and overcome. So white, because if you notice,
you're ascribing a lot of virtuous values to white men, and in many cases, those things can very well be true. But our entire economic and societal structure has been created and formed and supported in a way that makes it easy for white men to enjoy those advantages. They're not like inherent. White men don't have a special magical license on power and strength and on the ability to overcome. They absolutely do complain. Hello, everyone complains. That's part of being human. So there's the water that white men are swimming in favors them, so those things are easier.
But the reason
that's not something inherent.
But the reason for that is because, as you know, white men founded and discovered the greatest country in the world, America, right? And so they made it.
They discovered it? It wasn't here before white men got here?
No. And they created the greatest country on this side of heaven, right? And so naturally
they created it?
Yeah.
There was nothing here before white men got here?
When the Indian was here, but they were smoking pot and doing nothing with the land.
They were protecting the land.
They were out killing animals.
They were preserving the land.
They were killing animals and smoking pot. But let me ask.
So wait, are you a vegan?
No, I love animal meat.
So they were killing animals,
but they
weren't
making
them.
it great. They were just out here running around being crazy.
Oh, but that's some real disrespectful stuff that you just said. Every indigenous person on every continent begs to differ that they were there and that they were stewards of the land. They were much better stewards of the land. That just sounds
pretty. That's not reality. But let me ask, that sound pretty. They were stewards of the land. That
Wait a minute,
reality.
hold on. We ain't had no environmental crisis when the Native Americans were in charge.
Amazing.
We have
they didn't do anything.
We have destroyed the lands. Huh?
They didn't do it. So if they were so smart, why there are parts of the country that the white man has given over to the Indian? Y'all can have it, go build casinos, and all they're doing now is making money and getting high and doing dope and and killing
If
one
I
another.
stick you out in the barren desert, kill all of the animal livestock that you sustained on, and don't give you any support and resources and take everything away from you, that's not an opportunity to succeed. I give you a sandbox and I say, why did you not build a mansion out of this sandbox?
And why didn't they? If they were so smart, why wouldn't they take a sandbox and build a mountain out of it?
Oh, God,
That's
it's
what
not
smart
about-
people
it's-
do. Look at the white
It's not
folks.
about intelligence.
Look at the
It's not
white
about
people. They
intelligence.
take a sandbox and build a mountain out of it. And then they let the blacks and the Indians and the homosexuals come in and they destroy the mountain.
Are you a comedian? You are so funny. You are just killing me. This is so funny.